Okay, Bus Bench Babes, it's Beth, and I'm so excited about our show today. I can't wait to introduce you to the insanely cool Taya DiCarlo. Taya is a realtor in the Los Angeles area, happily married, mom of two darling little surfer boys. She's a roller skating diva, hella funny, and a pro at making real estate videos look easy. Taya is a complete package, and I think at the end of this interview, you're going to want to wish that you were besties with her. So let's dive in.
You're listening to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast, where we invite you to check your ego at the app, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive into all things real estate marketing, social media, friendship, hardship, love, money mindset, and all the things that celebrate you as a badass boss babe.
We're here to encourage you, show up for you, give you a loving kick in the pants when you need it most, and be your soft place to land on the hardest of days. So pull up a seat at our table and get ready to be inspired and start living your best life by design.
Welcome to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast. We are so excited you're here.
Okay, girls, let's dive in.
Taya, thanks for being here.
That was like the sickest intro ever. I love it. I love it.
Well, I'm glad you're here. We've had some technical difficulties behind the scenes that you and I figured out, and so now we're here having a conversation.
Yes, and I can tell you, if anyone is thinking how many blondes does it takes two. It takes two blondes.
It takes two blondes
to get the podcast up and rolling. We got this.
Yeah. Well, I heard you speak for the very first time at Tom Ferry's Success Summit a handful of years ago.
Oh my God, I didn't realize you were there.
Yeah, so I think that was my first year of coaching, but I was kind of like, I didn't really know people, so I was kind of like in the background, and I was like, I like her. I want to be friends with her. Like, how can I make this happen? And so we're here today.
Here we are.
And then you and I bonded over lipstick at probably was that the last Elite retreat?
Wasn't it like Mangrove? Was it Mangrove?
I bought the two that you had, and I still rock those MAC lipsticks. I'm like, these are good colors. I need to know what they are.
Yeah, hey, whenever you're feeling sad, just put on a bold lip. And everyone's like, oh, you're so dressy. And you're like, nobody noticed I don't have anything else on my face except
and I haven't
for
washed
lipstick.
my hair in a week. So.
Right? You're like, big sunglasses, red lipstick. Everyone's like, ooh.
She's fancy.
She's glamorous.
Well, I have a bunch of questions for you. So you want to just jump into this?
Let's do this.
All right. My first question is, what's your big why?
My big why is my family. And that includes my husband, my children, my dogs, my mom, my dad, the whole thing. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but my big why, and my friends are included in that too, because I feel like as cheesy and cliche as it sounds, like your friends are the family you choose.
For sure.
Right.
I love that.
And I really, this is kind of philosophical, but like my profound reason for living is to like be happy. Right.
I feel like that feels how you live that comes across in like what you put out on social media. You appear like, on the days when you're like yesterday, when you're like, I didn't sleep great, you're like, you'll get that real you. But like, I feel like 98% of the time you're like, my life is freaking awesome.
Yeah. And you know what? And it comes with its own struggles. And yeah, there are days where I don't feel like getting out of bed. In fact, I have a quote on my wall right now from David Goggins, and it says, your mind says no. You say, this is just what we do now. Until it's like breathing, face the mental pain until it's easy, until it's the new norm. And for me, it's like there are some days where I'm like, some nights I can't sleep, some mornings I don't want to get out of bed. And sometimes you have to honor those feelings and be like, okay, my body's telling me it needs more rest. And then there are other days when you're just like, no, your mind is being a total biatch, and you're like, shut up. We have stuff to do. And you just move forward. And I think, we'll get into this, but it's like, look, I'm not naive to think that life is not challenging and sometimes is sad and sometimes is hard, but it's the lens in which we look through it. And I've just learned to lean onto the positive stuff, because fear and negativity is like a rabbit hole. and it can
And
suck you
paralyzing.
in. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It can suck you in, and that's not fun. And if there's anything I've learned, especially in this past year, is that life is so fleeting and so short, and that we don't know when our time's going to run out. So we better get to actually enjoying it.
It's so true. Are you, well, so like all about living joy, or like, are you a person that does daily gratitude journaling?
You know what? I used to, and then I got really busy.
I know. I'm so lazy with
I
mine. My journal looks at me every day and I'm like, I should pick you up and do something with you. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I will say this: when I'm feeling really down, and I do have my valleys where
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I feel like I've gained some weight. I'm feeling bloated. I'm tired. I'm irritable or whatever I'm feeling. I'm like, okay, I am not my feelings, right? I'm like, I'm gonna pick up the journal. Like a coach told me back in 2014. He's like, every time you're in the weeds, like imagine yourself in like a hot air balloon, and you're like rising up above your life, and you're looking at everything from this like, big elevated view. And you're like, okay, well, from the big grand scheme of things, it's not that bad.
Right.
You know what? It's not that bad. Let's focus on what's in our control, and let's just focus on what you're grateful for. And every time I go back to that, it helps get me back on track.
I love that. It's so easy to just get sucked into like the stuff that it doesn't really mean a whole lot, but it's usually like, oh my God, it feels so big when it's happening, but it's like joy is a way better.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want people listening right now to be like, this chick is really cheesy. I'm like, no, the other day I put on Enter Sandman in the gym, and I was like, whoa. I mean, I think I also put on, and this just goes to show like my age, Rage Against the Machine, and Disturbed. Do you remember Disturbed? Disturbed was like a punk rock, like hardcore,
you grew up in California, so you had way more
just Google it.
Awesome
Google
music
it.
than Minnesota.
Down with the sickness. I mean, like whenever I'm in like a bad mood, I'm like sometimes I envision myself at the gym. Like, what if you could have like little sound bubbles above people's heads to like see what they're listening to?
Yeah,
because you judge people based on their looks, right?
Yeah.
Like people look at me, they're like, oh, she's probably listening to like Britney Spears, and sometimes I am, but sometimes I'm listening to Metallica or like something really hard, and I'm just getting in it. So, I mean, believe me, I have a dark side too.
It's not the worst thing ever. Makes you more multifaceted, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, so prior to getting into real estate, like tell me like a little bit about your backstory.
My backstory, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, duh. And I went to University of Oregon. I graduated with a degree in journalism. I thought I was going to be a newscaster. Because secretly I wanted to be an actor, but my parents were just like, we're not going to support you going to being an actor. And I was like, well, great. I want to be on camera. I guess I'll be
a segue to get to that?
I was like, I guess I could go to journalism school. So I graduated with a degree in journalism, but I figured out really quickly that I hated reporting, because I'm way too emotional. I don't really want, if someone's crying and something traumatic happened, I don't want to say, tell me more.
No, I would be like,
I would like put my arm on them. They're like, you're not supposed to touch them. I'm like, okay, this is not for me. And so I actually did move to Los Angeles to be an actor, and I did pursue that. And I was a lifestyle TV host, which was much more fun and exciting. Like,
that seems way more up your alley.
Totally. I was like a travel host, a cooking show host. I mean, I did it all. And I did some, comedy acting, improv, some things like that. And it was really a happy, fun, but challenging time in my life. I faced a lot of rejection and a lot of adversity in that, living in Los Angeles with no money in my bank account. But
can't even.
Yeah, it was really hard. But shortly after college, my dad, encouraged me to get my real estate license in 2006. So I got my license after graduation in 2006, and I never used it. I just had it.
Oh, funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It just sat there and you're like,
oh yeah. I was like, I'm never going to sell real estate. I don't want to sell houses. That's lame. That's boring. Right. I don't want to sell shit. And so I supported myself by working at Nordstrom, and was a top salesperson there. And until one day, there was a writer's strike in Hollywood, and there was not a lot of work for actors. Yeah. And this woman came up to me, and she was like, you'd be really good at selling real estate. I was like, I actually have my license.
Lady.
Yeah. And so my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, encouraged me to quit Nordstrom and really take a step back from performing. He's like, if it's meant to be, it'll follow you. And so I did. And I started as a real estate assistant to a top luxury realtor, doing Sunset Boulevard,
It's a great way to get your feet wet in the business.
Oh gosh, like white glove, 5-star service, like Santa Monica,
awesome.
Brentwood, like all of the Beverly Hills, all the luxury places. And so I got a lot of hands-on experience. And actually that was when I booked a really big TV hosting gig. And I was like, oh wow, this is convenient. It's sucking me back in. Hopefully I'm not blabbing, but
no, I love it.
I was a TV host for an NBC affiliate up in the Bay Area of all places, the San Francisco Bay, called Best of the Bay, where I was the weekly and weekend TV host.
Oh, fun.
So it was like, I feel like.
But you were living in LA doing that?
I was living in LA, so I was flying back to San Francisco, shooting for this NBC affiliate, and still kind of pursuing real estate. And then ultimately, I stopped working for that realtor, and the TV hosting job dried up. And that's where I started from ground zero in 2013. 2013 was like the first year that I was like, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And I sold $929,000 worth of real estate that year, which, for the math whizzes is about $22,000.
Yeah. You're like, you probably made more money when you were in college. Yeah,
I did. I absolutely did. I was broke as a joke, newly married, and then found out I was pregnant. And
your husband's I hit the jackpot with you.
Wow. He's like, you are a glutton for punishment, acting in real estate. You're really winning at life. And so I got into Tom Ferry coaching. This is a genuine plug for their system. But I got into coaching, and that very next year, the year that I was pregnant, I sold $10 million worth of real estate. And that was
night and day.
Yeah. And that was the first time that I was like, I can do this.
Yep.
Like, I don't have to give up my passion and my zest for life. Like, cause I had this correlation that was like, oh God, I'm giving up on my dream if I'm going to pursue this job in real estate. Yeah. You know what I mean? Cause I think a lot of realtors are characters in a sense where you don't grow up. And if you do, you're rare. But you don't grow up going, I'm going to be a real estate agent. Sometimes you just kind of stumble into it, and you're a natural salesperson, and you're bubbly and vivacious, and that's what real estate is. It's selling a lifestyle. It's being personable and dealing with emotional people. You have to be a great communicator to be a good salesperson. So, and then quickly after that, once I got a taste of success, I was like,
no turning back.
There's no turning back. And then lately I've learned how to marry my past talents with my business. And it's been a recipe for success. And now I'm just having fun.
Well, I think I got licensed, originally 20 something years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And back then I was in my mid 20s. You didn't mix your personality. That's what I love about watching all your videos on social is that's who you are as a person mixed with your career that you happen to also be fantastic at. So, but people didn't do that back in the day, in the old days, the old school real estate. It's there was definitely the way you dressed, the way you talked, the way you marketed, the way you didn't market. And that's why our podcast is Girl, Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench. We're what the hell are you spending money? That is how you did it in the 70s. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah. My dad's a broker, and I teased him the other day. I was like, Dad, when was the last time you got a new headshot? And he was like, that's a great photo of me. And I'm like, Dad, I'm dead serious. I'm like, how old were you in that picture? It has sepia tone. He's wearing a cream sweater. And I was like, Dad, and he goes, and we did the math. He was 37 years old in that picture. And I'm like, Dad, I'm fucking 39. Come on. I was like, I'm going to hire a photographer and he goes, well, I need to go on a little bit of a diet. I look really good in that picture. I'm like, Dad, you were 37. Stop it.
Then your clients meet you and they're like,
Dad,
who is this? Your son?
And you know what? He's not the only one.
Oh yeah.
There's a
amazing.
bunch of them out there.
When I meet agents, you're like, oh wow, that is not at all what you look like.
No. And it's embarrassing. So,
right.
I feel like that ties into your theme of this show. It's Get your old picture off that bus bench.
Right? Well, okay. So what we already talked about like how you got into real estate. So let's jump into like, you started a team. Was that last year or the year
Yeah,
before?
that was actually just
During COVID?
just 5 months ago.
Oh, holy shit. I'm lost all track of time. COVID's like fried my brain. Okay. So what made you think like that was going to be the best next move?
Oh my God, to be honest with you, I really didn't.
Necessity?
Yeah, it was necessity because it was January of 2020. I had just let go of my like part-time assistant.
Okay.
She was like $20 an hour, fresh out of college, like didn't know what she wanted to be doing. She wasn't a good fit. Like great girl, sweetheart, but like just wasn't a good fit from what I needed at that time. And my manager sat me down and I was like, I don't know where my next deal is coming from. Everyone thinks that, I'm this like hard-hitting realtor. And I was like, I'm paranoid about where my next deal is coming from. And he's like, well, you need a real assistant. Like you need a like licensed, salaried, like, grown ass woman assistant. And I was like, or grown ass man.
Yeah.
And I was crying and this was January 2020.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Right
This
before
is
the world shut down.
Yeah. Oh, get
Yeah.
this. He was like, when are you going to start drinking your own Kool-Aid and believing in yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what if I hire her and I don't sell a house? And he goes, do you really think that's going to happen? And I was like, yes. And he's like, just fucking do it. And I was like, okay, fine. So I hired Maria in March of 2020. God. Okay. Literally went through the whole process, interviewing. I hired a brand person and we developed Taya's 2 cents in the beginning of March 2020. Okay. I hire Maria. I get her onboarded. Literally 72 hours later, the world shut down.
Oh my God.
And
you're in California. You were shut down way the hell longer than the rest of us.
I just looked at my husband who had panic bought like $500 worth of groceries and then our refrigerator went out.
I saw that. You had groceries in a cooler outside.
Yes, on the front porch. On the front porch. And I just dropped everything, went into the pantry, shut the pocket door, and just started bawling like someone died. And I was like, this is it. This is it. It's over.
My worst fear.
Yes, my worst fear. This is it. And then, you dust yourself off and you're like, okay,
yeah,
I have to problem solve. Like, what can I do? And I was like, well, maybe this video idea was a blessing in disguise. What if I doubled down on that? And so I just was like, I guess she's going to work remote. I don't even know this woman. You know what I mean? And I had to trust in the process. I'm still with Maria. She's my angel. My business literally has exploded by over 400%. I went from,
during COVID,
my highest year ever was like 17 million back in like 2019, 2018. It was like 15 million sales volume. Yeah. Last year we did 37 million. And this year we're past 52 million and we're on track to do 65. Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So did you make any other hires besides Maria?
So I hired Maria. Within months, my business was like and just like taking off. I did hire a buyer's agent last fall. It wasn't a good fit. It was short-lived. Okay. So she was kind of in and out. And then, and I do have like one friend of mine, buyer's agent, who now sends me referrals. Like she was on the team, but she lives in Massachusetts now. And so she just sends referrals. And so I send her referral fees and we have like our arrangement. Yeah. And it wasn't until several months ago that I hired like 2 full-time buyer's agents. Awesome. One Minka, who I met on TikTok of all places.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Met her on TikTok. She reached out to me. We started DMing and then we met in person for coffee. And I was like, you're in, man. I was like, I believe in you. And she's Tom Ferry ecosystem as well. And then Diane Herlovsky, she has been, a mutual friend of mine for a long time and is experienced in the commercial world. And she was like, I'm the squeaky wheel that's not going away. I want to be on your team. And that's I was awesome. Like, you know what? I like your enthusiasm. You're in. So
that's so awesome.
Now we're a team and I have support and I was able to take like my first vacation ever with my family and it's been amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's being a big girl. I have 2 agents on my team and a full-time marketing director. And it's like, oh my God, how did we get here?
Yeah. And at a certain point, I think if you grow organically, it's much more comfortable because I just hired a marketing coordinator like less than 2 months ago. Okay. Because again, like it was just like too much to handle for just Maria. So now she's able to focus on client care and organization and scheduling things and checklists. Whereas the marketing stuff is all Esther. Esther is like, handles everything. And then I can spew out my creative ideas and she can help me get organized and actually bring them to fruition. So
yeah. I love that. Well, what advice would you give an agent that was just thinking about getting a team or has like a new little baby team? Like what have you learned along the way?
I have learned that, I'm the type of agent, I'm not the drill sergeant that's going to be making people come to the office at 8 a.m. and cold call and that sort of thing, because that's just not my personality.
Mm-hmm.
But we recently had a team meeting in person because I've been having a plethora of business that I can't handle, and that's where I'm handing it off to them. And so they're like,
Mm-hmm.
and what's really great is that when you come from this place of like prosperity and like giving to others,
Mm-hmm.
their instinct is not to take more. Their instinct is, I want to bring something to the table.
That's
I want to be
awesome.
worthy of being here. Right? It's the opposite of what you actually think it's going to be. Because a lot of times people in the team go, well, that's not really equitable for me. If I handle it myself, then I'll get more of the lion's share.
Right.
And it's like, well, I'd rather have a whole lot of something than a whole lot of nothing.
Than all or nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're 50-50 on my team. You bring a deal, I get 50%. If I hand a deal off to you, it's 50%. And we don't slice it any other way, because otherwise you get into the weeds of the ticky-tacky.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that person first and that person was in my CRM. Fuck it. 50-50, no questions asked, just get it done. And like I would say, if you're growing a team, start with one agent. Because and find out exactly what their expectations are. Because now after our team meeting, Minka and Diane were like, we want to know how to fish. We want to know how to be better salespeople. I want to get more business on my own. And I was like, well, I'll show you how I got to this point. Right. So now I'm teaching them how to cold call and I'm doing more hands-on training. I didn't have time to do that because I hired them in a desperation mode. Right. So if I could do this all over again, I would have had my systems in place sooner, and I would have started my team at a point where I actually was growing my business versus like busting at the seams, desperate for help, because the systems were not tight when I brought them on.
I think that is a huge thing for most real estate agents. You're like, what comes first, cart, horse? Do I have a system at all?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons Tom Ferry's always hammering that in our heads all the time, was just like, like get your shit together so you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yep. Find out what works and then scale it.
Yeah. I'm still muddling my way through that.
Same. It's a work in process.
Right.
Work in progress, excuse me.
How do you do it with like motherhood, wife, video extraordinaire, TikTok, you're a TikTok maniac now. Like, how do you do it all? Like you're, rocking a bikini at the beach with your kid doing surf lessons. Like, how do you do it all and still like keep sanity?
Hire a therapist early. No, I'm serious. Wow. I will say this, if I think as salespeople, we naturally bite off more than we can chew, right? We're aggressive. We're hungry. We're overachievers. Salespeople are like, I joke with my husband. I'm like, ultra competitive Taya. Like, you don't want to play a board game with me. I don't go easy on my kids if we're playing Nintendo. I was like, you lost my turn. Like, you know what I mean? But you have to pick and choose, right? There's an ebb and flow. And if you know what your why is, back to what we started with, and you know what's really important, there are days where I'm just a workhorse, right? And there are days when I'm not. Like this weekend, my buyer's agents are going to be holding the open house for the new listing. Next weekend, my husband's out of town and I'm launching $2+ million listings.
And you have to,
and I'm going to be by myself, and there's soccer and there's baseball and it's like, blah, 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 and hopefully no surf lessons in between, as much as I'd want to go to the beach. So you have to ask for help. You cannot be like, I was raised by a single mom, and I remember my mom doing it all and absolutely being insane. Bless her
I was
heart,
too.
love her, but
I
like
don't know how my mom did it.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. I remember just being like, "Mom, you're crazy," and she's like, "You're making me crazy." And now I get it.
Yeah.
But you can't be a martyr.
Yeah.
No one ever said you should do this on your own.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the resources, even if you don't have the resources, create the resources. Like ask a friend, sign them up for camp. Like see if the gym has daycare and
Yeah.
utilize your time in the best way that you can. Because you want your kids to have the sports and the camaraderie, especially like now in this day and age, they want human connection. Like, how do I do it all? I don't. Like, I mean, like, I will say this. There are times where I feel like a shitty realtor and a shitty mom, just keeping it real.
Yeah.
And sometimes a shitty wife.
Okay.
And I think that like last year, I did a really good job of growing my business and being a mom, but not a great wife, right?
Okay.
Where my husband felt neglected, and like I won't divulge too much because he's a very private person. But this year, I'm like, no. This is something that is important, and what does Tom Ferry say? Like if whatever you measure will improve.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And
Whatever you track
focus
and
on
measure
expands to
exactly.
that same concept. Yeah.
So I decided, you know what? I need to focus on my marriage and self-care. Because
Are you guys like date nights? Like this is our date night.
yeah,
Like, get ready, dude. We're going out.
Tonight we're going to go see Kygo. Kygo's like a DJ, like electronic dance. Like we're both not even really into it, but like another couple invited us. We're like, all right.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. So we're gonna
Are you guys good about scheduling that sort of thing?
We're getting better at it.
Yeah.
Because he's
it's
a
so
very
hard.
Yeah, he's a very successful business person as well.
Right.
And you can hear my dogs barking. And so we're in therapy. Like as everybody should.
Oh, my husband and I put that out on social media. I'm like, we always say Janet is our marriage therapist. And anytime we have any like bumps, I'm like, do we need to go in for a tune up? And he's like, yeah, I think we should. Yeah. It was his marriage therapist from his first marriage. He goes, I want to go to her. She already knows all my shit.
Yeah. And there you go. And
so every once in a while we just schedule a tune up.
Yeah.
I think you have to in this industry.
And just in life in general. I mean, I'm really grateful for Dr. Dana. I actually have my call with her today at 3. And it's just, even when things are going well, I think that we should, stay present to what's important and what's working and what's not working. Because the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it.
Absolutely.
And that goes for, people.
Anything.
That goes for friendship. That goes for brokerages, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe if I switch brokerages, like, Taya's at Compass. Maybe if I go to Compass, my business will improve. Well, wherever you go, there you are.
Yep.
There is a,
you're the common denominator.
Right.
Yes.
Like I love my brokerage. My brokerage does a lot, but it's like, people need to understand in business, wherever you go, there you are. I want everybody listening to Google Adam Sandler SNL travel agent. And there's this funny spoof where he's like, hey, I could get you this package to Italy, but forewarning, if you're depressed here, you will be depressed there. Like if you are sad in New Jersey, you'll be sad in Sicily. Like he's just like, you know what I mean? And this is the honest to God truth. So I think we all just need to be present to the fact that, like, you know what, you have to find joy within, and then that will overflow into other things that you do. So I thank you for saying that I'm accomplishing so much as a mom, and and I'm definitely having a lot of fun doing this. And there are some times where it's crazy behind the scenes. But
your children look very well adjusted via social media.
I drag them. I'm like, smile, you'll get a donut. You got to show the funny stuff too. That's like last night I shared that video of us like posing, and then we both dropped them and they like fell in the sand. I was like,
it happens. Yeah. They're so cute. So cute.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about videos. Like something that I feel like you're becoming insanely famous for is all of your videos. Your Taya 2 cents video like went insane last year, like you talked about. And then now you're becoming like this TikTok real estate sensation. Like how did all of that come about? That it just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, my business coach, Jason Pantana, had said to me, he's like, you're doing video for your business, but it's very sporadic. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really clear on who your audience is. You don't really have a schedule of when you're going to be sending these videos out. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I highly recommend you do like a weekly show.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me about a month of brainstorming ideas, everything from what's my objective, who's my audience, what's the topic going to be. It needs to have a vein like of where
Mm-hmm.
I'm heading, right? And so I decided these videos were going to be the knowledge broker, right? I'm going to be the
Yeah.
knowledge broker. I'm going to teach people how to transact,
Yeah.
right? Like, and what are the
People don't know.
obstacles?
They
Yeah,
literally have no clue.
they don't. Even if someone's bought 3 properties, they forget. They don't do
Yeah.
it every day.
Right.
So I decided I would be the knowledge broker, and that I would teach people everything there is. I mean, even if it's like slightly design inspired, whatever. So that's where it started from, and so I content bank now.
Okay.
And in the beginning, it was like I had a lower end videographer. And
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of my Tayas 2 cents back in like March through about July of 2020, they're from
You were
my home,
recording it in your
in
house,
my
right?
house. They were
Yeah.
in this very room actually. And it worked for the most part. But then I decided to up my budget per
Okay.
the suggestion of my coach. Was like, he goes, look, you're selling multi-million-dollar homes, like you should have higher end videos. And I was like, ooh, ouch.
Ah.
So, I mean, full disclosure, I'll spend anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 a month on video.
Doing live videos.
Yeah. So I go in studio with Ricky and we shoot once a month and we knock out in bare minimum 4 Tayas 2 cents videos, which are 3 minutes
Okay.
or less. And then, anywhere from 12 to 20 short form, 30-second, 1 minute long, like TikTok bite size.
TikTok reels type stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Once a month.
So that's
then,
outfit changes, that's topics, ideas, like that's all of that you have to plan for.
And well, ladies, pro hack, you go to renttherunway.com and you rent all your clothes.
Well, you did that for that cute yellow outfit you wore at some event recently, and I'm like, oh yeah,
my big
super
banana
cute.
suit, because you can't wear a yellow jumpsuit more than once.
Oh, people are like, we already saw that.
They're
sister.
like, no, we're over
it. Super smart, but even just planning for that, like that takes a lot of work outside of selling real estate.
Absolutely, and I think again, my manager was like, when are you going to start drinking your own Kool-Aid? I just was like, okay, I'm just going to trust that this is going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're basically like lighting money on fire and you don't see that return right away. Until people now call me and say, hey, I want you to list my $1 million house, my $2 million house. And I'm like, oh my God, how exciting. Like, I'm not even interviewing for the job, right? They're like, no, we want you.
Yep.
And
that's awesome.
I'm like, that's exciting. Why me? And they're like, oh, well, I've been following you for a while now. And I just knew that when it was time for us to sell, we would just choose you.
Yeah. Come list me calls. It's like the holy grail of real estate. If anyone's listening, that's not in real estate,
that's the call you referrals, want. You know what I mean? Agents who call me and they're like, I want you to help my friend.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your name always pops to the top of the list anytime in the Tom Ferry ecosystem. You're like, I need a Los Angeles agent. Oh yeah, call Taya.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And that's because I've earned that like notoriety from just repetitiveness. Just making sure that, I mean, that's marketing 101. How do you get in front of the most people on a consistent basis? So when someone is through that sales funnel, they think of you first.
Right.
Repetition.
The consistency of your videos is what really impressed me, because I think that's where most real estate agents just fall off the bandwagon.
Right.
Like we were talking about the podcast earlier today, and we're just like, okay, like this is like at least like a year game for sure. But you can see why people fail, because they're like, oh, 6 months in, they're like, this is a shit ton of work. I'm not getting the results that I want yet.
Yep.
And people don't really realize the long game of it.
Nope. In anything in life,
consistency. Actually. Yeah. Working out, I could translate that into all sorts of areas of my life. Yes. Working out, following a food plan, exercising.
Hey, you know what? We all have our things that we struggle with that are challenging for us. And it's like, we know that consistency is key in anything, but yet sometimes our actions. So it's like, how do we change our actions to match what we're thinking. And that takes us back to like that quote from David Goggins, right? Like your mind says no.
Yeah.
And you just say, not today, not today, Satan. Where it's like, this is just what we do now, right? You have to kind of be crazy about it and have these inner monologues, with yourself.
And actually get better at that.
Well, and it's like, it's so easy to just like ignore. It's so easy to not ignore, I should say, the voice in your head, because the voice in our head is loud all the time.
Yeah. Or waking you up in the middle of the night or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Always. Yes. What would you tell a newer agent starting out that really needs to like just jump in with social media? Like what would be the advice you would tell them?
Well, I would first say, you have something that most successful agents don't. And they don't realize that. They have the gift of time. And
meaning what?
Meaning they have time to put in sweat equity.
Oh, yeah.
Busy agents.
Yeah, before they're getting productive. Yeah.
I don't have time to, call expired listings.
Right.
I don't have time to circle door knock around my listing.
Right.
I don't have time to follow up on leads. I don't. I can only handle so much. I am one person and I'm a mom and a wife and all these things, right? So now that I know what it's like behind the wizard's curtain, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I knew then what I know now, I would have hustled even harder to take business from the big dog agents.
Yeah. Because they're not following up.
I would
doing all the things.
Well, and I think that there's a misconception. There's a misunderstanding with newer agents. They think if they just do social media that they're magically going to get this business. It's not going to work that way. You still have to take the traditional methods and marry them with the new age methods. So, for example, if there's an agent in your office that has a really luxurious listing, right, and they're from your office, I would door knock around that listing and say, you know what, someone from our office just listed a house down the street. Did you hear about it? Yeah. You know what they're asking for it? Yeah. What do you think your house is worth? And the person usually goes, well, I don't know. You're the agent. And be like, well, at what price would make you a seller?
Right.
You never know. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I would put in that sweat equity and I would start logging those conversations, because the more conversations you have, the more appointments you get, the more contracts you get.
It's a numbers game.
It's a total numbers game, but no one wants to put in the fucking work.
Yeah.
So I would tell a newer agent, put in the sweat equity consistently, right? This is what I just told Minka, my buyer's agent. I gave her like a plethora of ideas. I was like, look, you can circle door knock around all of the listings that we have coming up. We have three great listings, like $6 million worth of listings right now.
Super easy conversation. It's a warm conversation because you have something to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, go door knock, and when you go to do an open house, don't just be like a blind squirrel waiting to find a nut. Like show up ready. Yeah. Study the other inventory. Like you can't just be a dumbass. Yeah. You actually have to learn things. You have to study the market. You have to know your numbers. So when people come in, you're that trusted resource.
And they're like, oh my God, we've been to 4 other open houses and no one else told me this info.
Yeah.
Like, because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. And
here's my card.
Exactly. And you'd be like, here's a list of all the houses that are open today. But by the way, there's 5 listings that are not open today that are still available. And if you want to go see those, let's schedule an appointment. Yeah. Oh, we're already working with an agent. Oh, really? What's their name? And it's like, no, they're not. You know what I mean? No. It's like so there's so many different ways you can do it, but in a nutshell, marry traditional with the modern. But again, consistency is key. Yeah. The funny thing is 80% of the people don't want to put in the work.
Because it's hard.
Yeah. And you just have to choose your heart.
This industry is not for the faint of heart. Yeah.
But you know what? Neither is flipping burgers or, being a mechanic or whatever. It's like everything is a grind.
Yeah. And like pick your hard.
Right. Pick your hard. Yeah. And you just you have to be mentally strong and know that if you put in the work, that eventually it won't be hard.
Right.
Eventually it'll just be easy.
And people will call you and say, Taya, we want you to come list our house.
And be like,
you're like, great. Okay, I'll be over at Tuesday at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
This is a fun conversation. Well, tell us how people can find you. Like, how do you want people to find you?
Oh gosh, they can find me anywhere now. Ever since I hired a marketing coordinator, I'm like, that's
everywhere.
That's actually one more tip I want to leave with people. My husband said to me a couple months ago, and this is what inspired me to hire a marketing coordinator. He goes, well, what if I'm not on Instagram? How am I going to find you?
Yeah. Oh.
Because I was only hyper-focused on Instagram for a long time. And I was like, ooh, that's a really good one. So now that I have a marketing coordinator, you can find me, all my content on a regular basis on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, my website, LinkedIn, you name it. I'm on all of those things. Just Google Taya DiCarlo, and you'll find me. But you can start at my website, tayadicarlo.com. And from there, you can, play around and
go wherever the wind blows.
Whatever floats your boat. If you're a TikToker, if you're on Twitter, like I'm everywhere.
I love your TikTok videos, by the way. Like,
Thank
I love
you.
how just like funny and just taking the real and making it ridiculous. And yeah, you have to laugh at this, or otherwise there are days you're going to be crying your eyes out.
Exactly. and that's funny too. Document that
shit. True story. That was almost us earlier this morning before we found my buyer's agent's condo. She's like, I'll just go out to lunch. Her cat's roaming around here.
Oh, that's great.
Oh God.
But yeah, I love your tenacity though. You're like, hey, I'm going to get this done.
I'm like, we have things scheduled. We're figuring this shit out here today.
We did it.
We did it. Well, okay, let's recap the show. We had an awesome conversation today. Thanks, Taya, for being here. It was so much fun.
You're
fun
welcome.
To hear about where you were, where you are. It's awesome to watch your journey. And thanks for the tips. I think some newer agents will find this super valuable. And I appreciate your time.
Oh,
thanks
it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and good luck to everybody listening out there.
Thank you. Well, until next time, bus bench babes, keep your face off a bus bench and keep being a badass boss babe that you are.
Okay, girls, are you feeling as inspired as we are? We're over here cheering you on because you just finished another episode of the Girl, Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast.
If you want more, head over to girlgetyourfaceoffabusbench.com for show notes and more episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. They mean the world to us, and they're what keep us going.
Girl, thanks for being here.